Yes, guys, welcome back to The Squad on TDK Plus. How are you? I hope you're doing fantastically well on this lovely Tuesday afternoon. We are doing a re-record, and I did just go off on a rant at Foxtons, which I won't repeat. But we are here to break down all the goings-on in the Arsenal sphere. We're going to talk about nerves. We're going to talk about set pieces. We're going to talk about our slumps after going ahead. We're going to speak about Chelsea, we're going to speak about Brighton, take your questions and all the good stuff. If you're joining us for the first time on The Squad or on TDK Plus, thank you for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that good stuff. We did a rewatch of the Chelsea game, which you can go check out if you're a patron or YouTube member. We might have a Brighton rewatch for you, potentially, seeing how that goes. But yeah, loads of good stuff, every podcast, etc., all on there. And you get to join our beautiful community. But with that out the way, I'm here. I'm joined by my podcast brethrens. We're all in white today. Or some form of white. Opposite of Chelsea's funeral, there was some kind of joke in there. Rohan and George, how are we, chaps?
Very good. Chelsea. George,
I haven't seen you since the game.
Yeah, no, I am feeling very good. I think I'm interested to talk about the Chelsea guys because, again, I wasn't able to catch it live necessarily, and I definitely have some thoughts. I saw the timeline and don't know if it was as bad as what people are saying, to be honest with you. And had a chance to rewatch it. Felt very similar, just to double check that it wasn't my calm of knowing the result. And just thought it was a very interesting interview by Yuri and Timber, by the way, as far as the anxiety. And it's prevalent throughout our entire fan base. In my opinion, this is an issue that should be talked about.
We will certainly get into it because I think it's kind of It's the soup du jour, really, of the Arsenal fan base at the minute and sort of where we're all at. And Rohan and I were just talking about this, and I think this is a good place to start. I think at this point in the season, every conversation should be put into the context of, this is where we wanted to be. This is where we wanted to be. And, the pressure and the nerves that we feel, I think I'm 100% guilty of this. I'm constantly trying to remind myself that to not project it onto things that don't, or to at least to try and work out what it's worth worrying about and what it's not worth worrying about. James and I did a rewatch earlier, and I come to things and I say I think there's certain conversations we can have about the Chelsea game that are worth having, and some issues that we had in that game. But actually, I watched the last 20 minutes back and it was actually fine. It was actually fine. There was one chance from Garnacho, and obviously there was the overhead kick that was offside from João Pedro. But other than that, basically, I think we had some issues which we'll come to a little bit later. But if during the game I was hyperventilating with stress, and it's really really hard. Rohan, I'll come to you on this first to try and. Our job as fans is not to just remain calm at all times. We are emotional. We're so close to this thing that we all want. We've wanted to be here, so it's a privilege. But to try and hold all these sort of conflicting feelings at the same time is really, 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 really hard. With we 7 wins, 8 wins away from a Premier League title. This is gonna be emotional, and that's where I'm at.
I think Emmanuel Petit, I've not seen the actual interview, but I've seen some of the quotes, and he spoke about how winning that first one is the really difficult one because you've not been when we talk about these players need to remain more calm and composed, and they've had previous run-ins, so they should be more well equipped, but we haven't got over the line before, so that experience doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be more composed right now. Personally, I think that experience would allow them to be more composed now had they have got over the line previously in 23-24 in particular. That's the season that I'm looking specifically at. So yeah, I mean the anxiety's there. I mean I can't lie. I was dreading it. I do dread most games where we only have a 1-goal lead. That was even previous seasons where a 1-goal lead and we see it out in a confident manner. But I think what it is we've been burned a few times this season, in this way. We've seen it against Sunderland, we've seen it against Manchester United, we've seen it against Wolves, twice with Wolves, but we got out of jail with one of them.
Twice.
So I can understand it, but it's not necessarily always the most rational thing to feel that anxiousness, because I remember I think it was the 60th, 70th minute, and the fans are on to the players thinking, come on, play it forward, quicker. And Timber's there, if you watch him, he's like, calm down. Because again, the fans in that moment, they want the ball to go as quickly as possible to the final third. But the quicker it goes there, the quicker it comes back as well. You know, you have to understand that as well. So when the ball is on the ground, you're trying to work the solution. And sometimes it is about being calm, being composed, waiting for the jump, and then playing through, which is what we're doing in the first half many times. So, yeah, it's a long-winded way of saying I can understand the apprehension. I can feel it. I'm still yet to watch that final 20 or so minutes back. I've almost done my full rewatch. But yeah, no, that interests me. Yeah, that's slacking. That interests me that you felt it was a lot better than what it perhaps was is on first watch.
But it's also, I think the big thing at the minute for me is like trying to hold all these truths at the same time. Like feelings are inherently not rational. They're two different emotions, and rationality are two separate skills and separate entities. And you know, it's understandable for me to sort of sit there and watch a game and go, actually, it wasn't as bad. But also, I think it's completely understandable to sit there for the last 20 minutes and go, ah! So it's
especially
when
you haven't got VAR and that ball goes in the net.
Exactly. Or you're at the stadium, you know, and it's funny. I had some messages today from some people saying, you know, you need to get across that actually it wasn't as bad in the stadium as people were saying it was. And then I had some other messages saying, I was in the stadium. Was it horrible? Was it as horrible, you know, on TV? It was horrible in the stadium. So we've all got different perspectives on it. George, you mentioned the Timber comments. This is from Sam Blitz from Sky, who said, we stopped playing a bit, which was unnecessary. He went to a journalism school with my partner. We stopped playing a bit, which was unnecessary, especially with a man up. The energy within the players and the crowd, the anxiety, it's something we need to address and talk about. And my question is, I guess, is this anxiety avoidable? And my answer would be no. And if not, how do we deal with it? Because I think as Timber says, it's something that is worth bringing out into the open, because I think we're all feeling it.
Yeah, holding multiple truths is something that I think we try to find, a common sense with, where, I think what frustrates me is when I start to hear, well, we've been burnt in the past, or we've been burnt in a season. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what season is perfect? Like, we're sitting here searching for perfection because we want a guarantee of an outcome. That's actually where it comes down from. It's not coming down from mistakes or whatnot, because there's no part of your life in any journey that you don't have a fall. None. I don't care if you are the smartest person in the room, you're going to fall. You're going to fail at certain points, and it doesn't prevent you from achieving success. Failure does not do that, okay? Now, the issue is, in any part of life, when you start to give power to one emotion, it can destroy you, whether that's good or bad. And, I think when Timber is starting to talk about the anxiety, I mean, first off, these players are human. So this idea that you're going to tell them with all of the money that they're paid, or all of the, anxiety or things that they're going to feel, like, they're human. They're going to sit there and feel a sense of, I need to do this for you. And there's also this owing of success and this entitlement to success that I don't think we can run away from at this point in the project. We have been promised a certain outcome because of believing in certain principles for the better part of 6 years, guys. And, to sit there and say that fans are frustrated, but so are the players. Like, I mean, they signed on to do a project to achieve a certain level of success, and for goodness sakes, like, they made their whole entire career out of it. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but we are just fans, and we put all our hopes and dreams into it. These are hopes and dreams plus their jobs.
Professional careers.
Like, this is their professional career. So to sit there and think that it's not something that they want, or they don't know how to do, or to sit there and as though people aren't being told things. Of course, you're being told, don't sit back, do certain things tactically, make sure that you control your emotions in this way. You have a team of psychologists and yada, yada, yada. Yes, but we are human and we are flawed. And depending, I don't really want to get into religion, but most humans are flawed, okay? And we accept that. Part of the problem that I think I have a little bit towards it is when we start talking about this anxiety, the entire world is against us, in a sense, where I feel like you need to start taking that mentality, but you yourself have to be the one to pull yourself out of whatever hole you're in. And letting outside noise affect your individual actions has been something I keep as a permanence in my life, where I try to avoid it. So, very fancy way of saying, don't look at your neighbor's lawn and focus on yourselves. And, when Timber's starting to talk about the anxiety that the players feel and the fans feel, and I think that, this stuff matters, guys. And I do think that the crowd atmosphere does translate. Those things do happen. They're a direct impact on game results. Now, good luck trying to tell a fan to calm down in any facet. Good luck, by the way, telling a player to calm down when they are 9 games away from the thing that they've been promised from for 6 years. Just take that in. You know, we are 9 games away, guys, from something we all have wanted to, let's just face it, to say, see, I told you so, we could do it. Every single one of us, the players, Mikel, the fans, everybody has wanted us to be able to do that. And I did really worry about the narrative of this season being no excuses. But it's about how do we deal with these things? How do we put into context that there's periods in which Arsenal won't be better than their opposition? And can we afford a single minute of that not happening? We got to be a little bit rational in that sense. Like, I think in the fan moment, you're going to be annoyed. But when you sit there and you talk about reflections and we start to look at it, this entire rest of the season is not going to be dictated by beating a team for the entirety of 90 minutes. It is about being the least perfect team in the league. And you got to apply that to performances, to matches. The least
Hopefully you mean the least
imperfect.
imperfect.
Sorry, the least imperfect team. Sorry,
uh,
and that's not a great bar. And the last thing I will end on, what frustrates me. Let's look at Liverpool's title campaign last year. I want everybody to honestly tell me, for the majority of Liverpool's campaign, were they a team that you felt that for 90 minutes they beat the opposition? And categorically, people would say no, and that it was individuals and their marquee season, which is what got them over the line. It's also not rational. And we've chosen a very different approach, where we've looked at the collective. We've looked at things differently. We've tried to achieve success differently. And it's not rational to assume our way will win. But you have to believe in your beliefs, otherwise you will fail. And the team that switches on those beliefs early, that starts to have fault, to give it power, will not succeed, including us. So that's the only thing I would say. Stick to your beliefs, don't look at other people's lawn, and focus on the things that made you successful, and that will get you out of a hole.
Damn. Play out to the players. Yeah, I think there's a lot there. I think in particular, seven games away potentially from Premier League title is not the time to be going, are we doing the right things? Just keep going. Just keep going. And I think that's something there. I think in particular, the sort of the thread I want to pull on and to sort of head us into a bit of another section here is around sort of what we can and what we can't control. I think ultimately we will have anxiety. The players will have anxiety for all the reasons that George has been into. The fans will have anxiety. Like there's going to be edgy moments, as George has alluded to as well. We're not going to be able to beat up on teams for 90 minutes from for the rest of the season. There's going to be periods like this. So what can we do in those periods? And there's a couple of things. And George, as you say, it's focusing on what you do. I think also, I think there's certain players who can maybe look at themselves a little bit, in particular in terms of their technical level and what they're doing, just the way they're preparing themselves and to their duels and how they're passing and things like that. But we can talk about that a little bit later. I think the one thing I want to pull on though, and something that maybe can help with this anxiety, is this thing we're doing when we go ahead. There's not loads of great data. I've been looking all afternoon for some stuff, but there is some decent stuff from Scott Willis about game state and what we do in certain game states. And this is something where we can help ourselves for the anxiety and the things we can control. In particular, when we're losing, we look like a really, really good defensive side, and we're one of the best attacking sides in the league. This is from about sort of 3 weeks ago from Scott Willis, which you can go check out on his X page and on Canon Stats. In a winning game state, again, we do look like one of the best defensive teams in the league. Chelsea, ironically, are actually slightly better than us in terms of the attacking stuff. But the drawing game state is one where we don't look particularly good. Bournemouth are ahead of us in terms of how good they look when they're in a drawing game state. Brentford are ahead of us in terms of XG4. United are ahead of us. Manchester City are ahead of us, and Chelsea and Newcastle and Liverpool and Leeds are right on our tail in terms of how good we look as an attacking outfit when we are drawing. That's one data set. I'm sure some people would say, no, it's not when we're drawing. It's when we've just gone one goal up or whatever it might be. But Rohan, I'll come to you as we sort of try and work out what we have to accept some things, the anxieties, who we're facing, that what we're after is a very difficult thing, that we haven't done this before, etc., etc. On this specific thread, this feels like we can control this a little bit more, and I do feel this. And specifically against Chelsea, as we come to this game now, what did you make of when we went 1 goal up? Our response, I thought it was a little bit better actually. Sort of before half time, we came out after half time, and I went, "Oh dear."
Yeah, actually, I slightly disagree after half time. You know, I actually felt the 15 minutes after we looked good. I didn't think that on the first watch yesterday, but
Not what the field tilt says, Rohan.
What did this field tilt say after the first 15 minutes of the second?
Believe
half?
so. Let me just check.
Yeah,
I think so.
because from what I saw in that first 15 minutes after half time, the team looked in control of the setting. I genuinely felt that. So I'm intrigued to see what Scott Willis's graphic has there.
No, you're correct. You're correct. Your first 15 minutes, and then it's the 60th minute onwards or so. We have a bit of a slump.
Yeah, they have a period, and it comes from a long ball that Sanchez plays, and they get a cheap throw in, and then they start to pile on a bit of pressure. They have a couple of corners as well, so that's what I noticed there. The drawing game state's interesting. I'll come back to that in a bit, as I think a bit more about that. For me, though, in terms of what we can control, right? So I agree with you. I don't think that we can prevent the anxiety when we go into a game where we've got a 1-goal lead and we have to suffer a bit and we're not able to push out. The manager always wants Arsenal to push out. I can assure you that. He wants them to jump forward. He wants them to play high. He wants them to be able to pick out their references every single time so that we can get on the front foot. But he's not on the pitch. It's the players who are on the pitch. And naturally, we said this on the IR, they feel more comfortable when the game is coming towards an end to sink deeper and deeper and deeper, close to Raya, because you don't have to worry about the threat in behind. Everything's in front of you. You know, there's no runs in behind you in which you really have to be aware of, as opposed to playing high. So that for me is something I don't know how we're going to be able to prevent that in that sort of game state personally, because firstly they don't have much time to prepare for games anyway with the number of games that come up. What I do think can happen, and you'll probably will be a lot more, you'll certainly be way more knowledgeable on this front than me. I feel like a conversation with the team as a group could certainly help in terms of, as a group, you know, talk about how it feels in that period, in that moment, towards the end of games, and how can we kind of shift the mindset of getting us forward and jumping forward and taking the manager's message on board. Because you could argue the players therefore aren't listening to Mikel, but they're just nervous. They are nervous.
Yeah.
So that is something I think maybe a conversation with the group could perhaps help. The other thing that we can do is Kai Havertz, like we were talking about this off air, didn't think he had a great cameo, to be honest.
No.
However, I think his impact for the team, for his availability, can give us an option in which when you are struggling to jump out and the players are not comfortable in doing so, even though they have the capability, hit it long to him. And if he can hold it up, he can win a foul. It just takes off the entire pressure of that period. That's something we could do. And the final thing is be more efficient. The first half, we had too many situations we mess up. It's about preventing yourself from being in that scenario and not having a 1-goal lead, having a 2-goal lead, because variance is not going to hit you twice. If it does, then goodness me, you must be some unlucky. Yeah, I was going to say, must be some real unlucky guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the things I think we can control. Yeah. The drawing game state is interesting though, because there have been games this season, like when it was actually no, it's not a drawing game. The Leeds game before we went 1-goal up, I didn't think we were peppering their goal, you know, but we managed to just get the goal, the moment with the corner, which then comes out with Noni Madueke in the second phase. So that is something I think we can certainly improve on for sure. But I need to ponder on that a bit more.
I think also with a lot of these, sometimes tags, even just in sort of 2-3 games periods, maybe something might be true for 2-3 games, and then it isn't true for the rest of the season, but it sticks around, and then every time it happens, we go, oh, this is classic Arsenal, have gone 1-goal up, whatever. I'm trying to find some objective data to back it up, but I don't know. Because
sorry to just really cut in there, Alex, but it's like when we went 1-0 up, I didn't think we were pushing. We were pushing in that half, Like,
I actually think against Chelsea specifically, we got better after the goal. I think I do think after half time, maybe there was a bit of a lag, but I think after half time we had a moment. But I have felt in this Arsenal team, and I think there's a general consensus that once we score, that something shifts across the season. Maybe it's not right against Chelsea. I do think your point also about having a reference and an outlet is a big thing. As I said recently, I was on Sky, and I wasn't laughed at, but I was sort of like, the combination of Marino and Havertz being out is a big thing, and I know no one's going to accept that. no one's going to accept that as a thing. But
we've been talking about that here on the channel for so long, like the idea that you can't go over top. It's an issue.
We're all Arsenal nerds. No like casual Liverpool fan is gonna take that as an example. But I think, George, just to come to you, I think the point about the game state is sort of up for sort of debate. I think maybe jury's out a little bit on this in terms of what do Arsenal do when they're winning or drawing, whatever. But I do feel periods of games, whether it's winning, losing, or drawing, there are periods of games that we seem to let slip more than maybe in previous seasons. Do you think that is simply the case of just opposition getting better? I mean, like, that could be an answer here.
Yeah. I think also this year, and I'd say the last 18 months, the Premier League has actually become more vertical. And I'd love to find somebody to give me some data as far as that. And I don't think that's hard to find. But I think in the last 18 months to 2 years, there have not only been far more high-intensity sprints, far more sprints, but the game state of the Premier League has even gotten more vertical. The idea, the Bundesliga-fication of the Premier League.
Bundification.
Bundification.
Now that's a league I'd watch.
Oh man, Freudian slip there. But yes,
what's on the mind, George?
Yeah, well, no. There is a bit to that thread, in my opinion, and I think that there is, just generally speaking, less time on the floor. Like when people want to talk about death by 1,000 passes, that's been less and less the case in terms of the Premier League, and this idea that teams need to be, I've talked about this before, like the accordion, willing to close and come out quickly. How teams can close their distances, but then expand their distances really quickly within transitions and whatnot. Like that accordion ability is what has made teams that are successful the most successful in the Premier League as of late. And I think that very definition encourages turnover, panic, chaos, the entirety as far as what we've been seeing with these long throw-ins, as far as creating duels from areas that we didn't think duels would come from, is very much a thing. And so that, by its very nature, means that the game is frenetic to a certain degree. Like when we talk about death by 1,000 passes and this whole theory of control, why do you guys feel a sense of control when everything's slow and we're passing a million times? Well, it's because you're not dueling effectively. Like the major duels are happening much later in the passing sequence, right? But if we're having duels earlier and faster and quicker, it gives this idea of like, oh my gosh, I need to be ready for a duel constantly. And that by nature induces panic. Now, I think from an Arsenal perspective, just to tie on this thread, I have been thinking quite a bit about it. I do think we tend to go into ourselves because we trust how defensive we are. You can't be told that you're the best defensive team in the league for nigh on 3 years, let alone in the world, and then not think, I'm not feeling good, let me go to the thing that gives me safety. Like that's something that you would do in life, period. So I sympathize with it. I don't like it, but I sympathize with it. What we're asking for is for that to happen in the final third and not in your own third. And, to ignore the threat of the in behind. But how do you do that? And I do think it's worth pulling on some threads, because in this last 7 or 8 games, maybe not going to have the most popular opinion, but I don't think Martin Zubamendi has been at his best, which has been a significant difference from the period of August to December even, of what Martin Zubamendi was able to do. And I don't think it's just him. I look at some people, ironically, even Timber, who made those quotes. I think he's been better the last game or so, but I think Timber has been at fault for even those previous 4 or 5 games in which he has led to panic in his own buildup. He's been susceptible to it as well. David Raya, before these last couple of moments, I think in the last game or two, David Raya had some moments in those previous 4 or 5 games. Gabriel Magalhaes, I don't think has been right since his injury as far as being consistent on the ball in terms of his distribution. So we have had a lot of people in our back line that haven't displayed the technical competency and efficiency that they did earlier in the season. It's simply true. So our buildup has taken a knock towards that, just broadly speaking. So when you start to remove the option of a Mikel Merino and a Kai Havertz to go up over top, and you remove that ability, period, you are forced into a game state that you're already not performing well. And there are 2 players in particular that I look at that I don't think have been used enough and haven't been able to help us in this situation, and that's Calafiori and Ben White, who I think in the back line represent amongst our best passers in build-up in terms of their composure, their idea to receive pressure and be able to
Yeah.
play forward. And we've been void of options, not only to go over the top, but to then add people that when we are in the back and we're being forced back, that are comfy receiving. You look at Miles, another player that hasn't had minutes, but in theory is a profile who can receive under pressure, roll, and go get out. Like, you are dealing with issues at both ends, not just the ability to go over top that's now robbed, but how about playing short, quick passes deep in your own build-up? You're not adding the best players in the squad at that. And that is an issue, because also the players we have aren't performing to the degree that we need them to. So I do think that is an issue for us beyond some of the central progression and some of those things that we've talked about from an attacking sense. But building that security and build-up will breed confidence from a control aspect.
I think so. We had a question about that on the Discord from Tipsy in the Trenches, who was asking something similar, basically sort of alluding to your point that if you have less balance in the back line, if you have maybe some players who are more sort of, in Capiers who are a brilliant player but want to prioritise progression, etc. You have less technicians, let's put it that way, close, not that Capier isn't a technician, but you know what I mean. If you have those sorts of players in the back line, do you create a calmer performance? Look, it's going to be a million things. It's going to be where we are in the season. It's going to be the nerves. It's going to be the verticality of the league. It's going to be probably a little bit of just us projecting, oh, this is a thing that happens, and then you see it in the game and it just happens, and maybe it isn't. I also, two things before we move on from this. I also want to add another player in there who's Christian Norgard, who I think our underusage of Christian Norgard, he is the guy for me. If a game is being played around a centre circle and it's getting dually and it's getting like loose bally and it's getting, bring him on. That is his bread and butter. And I also, maybe the final sort of nail in this thread, that is not a phrase, Zubimendi has run. I agree with you, George. I actually don't think that's a controversial opinion at all. I think Zubimendi's not been particularly good for a while. He has ran the most kilometres of any Premier League player. There's a fatigue aspect here as well. So there's many things. I do think we can look to this and maybe hopefully the club are looking at all of those aspects and going, how can we control games a little bit better? But again, also control isn't just, if we view control as just knocking it around and build up, and we have another problem. So can we never quite fix it? I want to come to the Chelsea game a bit more specifically. And in particular, Eze's performance. So I did a rewatch earlier, as I mentioned, with James, and Rohan, I'll come to you, as I know you watched the game back as well. A bunch of nerds we are. Eze's performance, I think, and again, we could weave on the podcast come to this sort of execution type narrative, and there's been a sort of a technical problem, and I didn't want to overlay that, but I did feel a lot of that with Eze. I felt a lot of the issue with him simply comes down to he's in the right place at the right time and the ball just like bounces off his foot. I don't think it's worth going. There's a conversation about why that's happening, but against Chelsea we could say, oh, he should be playing in X position or Y position, or it's Trossard, it's this or it's that, maybe. But a lot of the situations I saw him in, for Palace, I felt as though one of his major skills, I remember doing the scout with you, George, he's taken it on the back foot, and the first action is forward, straight away, forward. And it was often to Mateta or to Sarr, whatever it is in behind. I felt him be a bit more like, I'm going to take it in the midfield and then make my decision. Not that one fluid action. It feels a bit more, sort of, I don't know, not confused, that's the wrong word, but sort of less decisive, I would say, in his performance. But yeah, thoughts on Eze across the sort of the 90, which, to be fair, is his first 90 he's played in a while, against Chelsea.
Felt like I was wearing Timberland boots and bootcut jeans. Genuinely. Like, it literally was that. Because we were looking at the IO and we were thinking about balance with Trossard and Eze, and so didn't think that was an issue at all. When I watched it back, I think the issue was simply Eze was so loose on the ball. It's his technical security. Whether it was top of the box, he had 2 or 3 situations top of the box, it just gets away from him far too much, and it allows the centre-back, it allows Caicedo to then nip in front and then just make the challenge. And that squanders a big chance into a chance that doesn't even register, by the book. That's the frustration, because I think, when you look at the XG in this game, you shouldn't be looking at XG, nice day games and whatnot, but the XG has it quite similar between Arsenal and Chelsea. But how many moments did we have in this game to generate more XG through the situations that we had? And Eze was guilty of quite a few of these, alongside Leandro Trossard as well. Because I actually felt we did some really clever things in this game in our build-up. I thought our build-up in the first half was so smooth. We were like 2 or 3 final passes from cutting through them on a number of different occasions. Because Chelsea, you're talking about like pressing from goal kicks, and there's the prevalence of man-to-man systems now across the entire league. You go all the way to the bottom, and they're all pressing in that manner. Chelsea, they were also pressuring when they were in their block, and they're around the middle of the pitch. They're pressuring man-to-man with the two centre-backs on Gyökeres to begin with, a very common practice. The centre-forward stays high, so the two centre-backs are going to be there. And we were pulling their midfielders out, so then it opened up Trossard abandoning width. You saw Trossard every single time cheat inside. Why is he cheating inside? Because if Nketiah is wider, it pulls Neto wider. If Declan Rice is pulling deep and Caicedo is following him, he's out of the midfield zone. So then Trossard can take it in that space, and then we're switching it to Eze and a couple of times, and then the attack just breaks down. And it was also Trossard. The attack just breaks down. That sort of stuff grinds my gears, mate, because it's just literally trap the ball, play. We're in, so for me, mate, that's what it was. I don't think there's anything more to it. I actually think it was probably his most loose game on the ball, Eze. So I think that was the issue. I think he had a nice moment in the second half with the left-footed shot. I thought that was decent, but just the control on the ball was just non-existent. And I think he would have been hooked if Ødegaard was available.
Yes, I think so. It is interesting he played 90 minutes. The only mitigating circumstance I'll give him, I'm not sure this is exactly what you're alluding to there, but because Chelsea were funneling us left, a lot of the time he'd receive the ball off, let's say, a Trossard or let's say Nketiah. It was fired into him, and he'd be the out ball, and maybe sometimes that can give you a bit of a this is played on grass and with boots and balls. It's not on Football Manager, you know what I mean? So there is something there. But yeah, it's an interesting one with Eze. George, I'll come to you sort of on, if you have anything else to say on Eze. I don't know if it's worth necessarily dissecting that anymore, but sort of Chelsea in general, the games are coming so thick and fast. It's about taking what we can from this game and building on it and going to Brighton. I'm worried about that Brighton game, boys. I'm worried. But yeah, sort of reflections on the game. I think for me, maybe the only thing that I haven't seen massively pointed out is Chelsea are good. Like Chelsea are really, really good at football, especially in the attacking sense. They have a number of really good attackers. They're trending. I think it's Hamza Khalik Lunat, who I was referenced at the minute from Time Sport, who did some really good numbers on Chelsea. They're the form attacking team in the league. Like, this isn't some terrible attacking team, Chelsea. This is a good team with some good ideas. And we beat them at home, and we've got 9 games to play. You know what I mean? So we should take something from that.
Really quickly on Eze, I actually thought that was one of his better out-of-possession games in the press. When I look back as far as his ability in the press, what he was guiding, and his understanding of the press has been incredible. But I completely agree with you guys that the first touch was just gone. It was just not a day for him as far as his first touch. He couldn't get it under control, and he couldn't solve it. And look, sometimes you have those days. You know what I mean? But from my perspective, as far as the Chelsea thing, that was the most physical Chelsea team that we faced this season. And it was arguably our best performance. And not a lot of people, I think, will see that. But from my perspective, when you look at it on the rewatch, the moments Chelsea were on top were far fewer. We had worse games previously. And, that was also the most physical Chelsea team that they could have put out. They couldn't have put out a more physical Chelsea team. We cut through them on many occasions, guys. Like, that was, for me, it was a very comfortable, bar the first 5 or 10 minutes in the first half, it was all Arsenal, and by a clear margin. And the game should have been wrapped up in the first half. And we played with our food, and, we exit that first half 2-0 up. People are saying a very different story, in my opinion, about what this game was. We ate them in the first half. We let ourselves go a bit in the second, but we walked out fairly comfortable winners with a 2-goal margin. I think would have been the rhetoric had we literally got one more goal in the first half. I look at the idea that Kai Havertz is back, and I think the potential that brings is just absolutely massive. And, him just exiting the game, being uninjured, was like one of the happiest moments that I walked away from. When I look at, something, and I'm just sorry, Alex, I wanted to pull on one thread that you said. You said Eze at Palace, who's going to be hitting Sarr and Mateta. Guys, what kind of forwards are those? Like, if you're going to look at Arsenal's forwards, okay? Like, I don't want to make excuses for Eze, and I hope this doesn't come across as that, because his first touch was unacceptable. He should have done better. But let's just be fair when you're looking at those types of forwards, guys, in terms of who he's been playing with. That's not Trossard, that's not Gyökeres. And, it's a different type of forward. It encourages a close game pass on the inside. It doesn't encourage the stretching behind. And this was probably among the first minutes that we saw Martinelli, Eze, Havertz, and Saka as a front line. Guys, saw it for like 15 minutes. How long have we seen that in the totality of this season? 2 runners, 2 passers. I'd like to see more. So when I look at it, I don't think I saw a good performance in those 15 minutes, by the way, but I'm just saying I saw the profile. I saw that Mikel sees the potential of that front line at the very least. I'd like to see more of it. And I'd like to see it being given some games more than just 90 minutes. So as far as Chelsea goes, I would encourage people to maybe have a rewatch, a breath. It was our best Chelsea performance of the season, in my opinion. It was a Chelsea team that are very physical, that have caused massive problems for the top 6 for a problem. And, they are a problem against the top 6 and for a reason, because they're incredibly physical, well-drilled. They're one of the few teams that can run pretty much with anybody in the league if they have their fit team available. That pivot in Santos, Caicedo, and Reece James is serious, guys. I don't care what the league shows, but that is a very serious physical battle, especially with Palmer starting. So for me, it was a team that is stupid, and that's why they're in the position they are. But as far as profiles go, they...
Pedro. Goodness.
Yeah.
Very good player.
Another red card, by the way, and we finally have become the team that I think has tied the most set pieces as a record, I believe, 16 in a campaign.
Yes.
So if we do one more, we'll break a record. And I think, so it's one of those where I'm happy to take it. I'll be the villain of set pieces all day long. It was a game of set pieces. And it was ironic, mate, because I think Chelsea are dangerous on set pieces, and we were able to reestablish our dominance there, which is something I don't think we've done in the last 5 or 6 games. We had a little bit of a fall-off as far as our set pieces had gone, especially defending them. I thought attacking-wise we've always been strong, but some of our defensive set pieces have been a little bit wavy at times, but it was a lot better in this game. So there was a response. I didn't feel the panic. Let me put it this way. I thought, and I don't know if it's just my timeline, I saw panic, and I rewatched it, and I go, okay, we weren't in control minute 1 to 90, but that was a very good performance. It was a very good performance against a top 6 team that we won.
I was panicking though, George.
But yeah, look, you can't. It's not. Come on, you need to see what you're seeing. We're 9 games away. Like I can't, myself included. I can't say to anyone, don't panic. You know what I mean? Like, it's completely fair.
When Caicedo had that ball and he was about to I was about to dash that pen at the TV. I was
don't panic, but don't call it a bad performance. Like, it was a good performance, and it was a close result, but it was a good performance. And on the balance of play, again, that was our easiest Chelsea game that we've had this season. I guess I wasn't seeing that, and I think we've talked about the anxiety in the first half of the pod. You're not going to solve it, and I don't think Arsenal are going to become and breed this confidence. The irony is, I actually think the Champions League, this team looks calmer, like they breathe more, and it's not just, I think, the game state. There's like a level of internal confidence this team has from not playing in the Premier League at the moment, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I think.
Get Alex in that changing room and give him some psychology lessons. That's what we need.
I don't know if I agree. It was the easiest Chelsea game this season. I think the Carabao Cup they didn't lay a finger on us at all, and in that game they had a few moments, and I felt as though we were out of control for more of that game, which you could argue is control necessarily. Semi-final, and also the second half of the semi-finals of the first leg of the Carabao, Stamford Bridge was maybe the hardest, you could argue, but yeah, it's look. My point is only to say Chelsea are a brilliant side, really. Like that's all it is to say.
Mikel always talks about their forward line. He's like so.
We spoke about him last season. Yeah. End of last season, he was talking about them attacking open spaces and taking sort of inspiration from them, and he should. And obviously, he signed from them as well this summer. You mentioned it there. Liverpool manager Arne Slot says most Premier League games are no longer a joy to watch and his football heart doesn't like the emphasis on set pieces. You have to accept it, said Slot. I think it's mainly here in the Premier League. If I watch other leagues, I don't think there's so much emphasis on set pieces. If I watch an Eredivisie game, which I still do, I see goals being disallowed and fouls and goalkeepers being given. I think, wow, that's a big difference. Here you can hit a goalkeeper in his face, and the referee still says, just go on. Do I like it? My football heart doesn't like it. If you ask me about football, I think about the Barcelona team from 10, 15 years ago. Every Sunday evening, you were hoping they would play. So I think maybe the natural Arsenal fan response here is to go, meh. I agree on some level with the idea that, look, I would prefer a game to be won by 5 open play goals. If you're asking me, I think there is beauty in set pieces, but if you're asking me, if I had a direct choice of what football to watch, Barcelona Real Madrid Clasico from 10, 15 years ago, and a standard Premier League game now, I would agree. The place where I think the conversation gets missed is, number one, and we said this earlier, Rohan, he says emphasis on set pieces. There's no emphasis. There's not more set pieces. People are just better at them. It's a different thing. And I think this idea that set pieces have come about because people are just playing for set pieces, I don't agree. And secondly, there's no one team who has decided the tone of the Premier League. So I think where this gets thrown is like, oh, ugly, Arsenal, or this is Arsenal ruined the league, Arsenal set this tone. Look, thanks very much, guys. I appreciate that you think we're so important. But we're just doing the best in the league that we're in. And I think that is maybe where I get frustrated, not with the lack of credit, because I don't really care, but where people try to discredit Arsenal. We're just good at a thing that you need to be good at the minute. Yeah. We're the best at the thing that everyone else is getting better at. And I don't quite understand how that becomes a negative on Arsenal. That's the bit I don't understand. But I mean, look, on Slot, we could take it as a slight on Arsenal. I don't necessarily think he was saying that. But Rohan, I don't necessarily disagree. Yeah. It's just the way the league is.
Yeah. I hear what he's saying. I think the problem is because of the comments that he's been making previously, the slight digs, in terms of set pieces in Arsenal, and then you see them score the number of set pieces they did against West Ham. I think that's where it becomes a little bit difficult for Arsenal fans to take it from him. I hear what he says. I do hear what he says, because for me, the best team that I've ever seen is that Barcelona team of Pep. Hands down, that Barcelona team. Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, then you got Pedro, Villa, and Messi. It was a crazy team, And it's all about playing through the lines, playing inside the block. But the game has evolved. There's a really, really good quote from Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola, he's a genius. He's just an encyclopedia. I'll send it to you, but he broke it down so well. It's like back a couple of years ago, when you're building out from the back, it was usually only one centre forward who would press, and then you've got a centre back who is spare, and you can work it with the goalkeeper, and then you can play out, and then you can move the ball forward. Every single team presses man to man. Every single team, And then when they lose the loose balls in the middle of the park, the team pressing, they then defend really low. And the defenders in today's game across the board are physically more dominant in comparison to the past. With the new methods, with dietaries, nutrition and whatnot, and what they are trained to do, all of these players can play high. When have we seen this before? We always associate the teams towards the lower half of the table always being teams who are not the protagonists. They don't want to stamp their authority. Wolves are looking to stamp their authority. They are literally rock bottom. And that's not to say in the past, we spoke about, Vincent Kompany sacrificing Burnley to get a better job, But
you did.
Yeah. But we've transitioned away from. You look at that Burnley team; they're playing high, but they physically are not to the level of the defenders that you're seeing now. And the space has become more compact. It becomes a lot harder to play inside the block. Naturally, set pieces becomes an advantage that you can swing to your way if you practice it. You have the right players. You have the dominance that you have in a big Gabriel in the box and whatnot. It's just another way in which we can seek the margins at a time in which defending has become a lot stronger in the league, and that's what it is for me. And you have to adapt. I completely agree with you. It's the word emphasis that I can't stand, because you look at that Inter Milan game when we played Inter in the Champions League, loads of opportunities to play through, and then you're creating chances after chance after chance.
You have to play the game that's on offer. You have to play the game that's on offer. And while I think sometimes in Arteta's methodology, like even before the game against Chelsea, if we lose, I've got a rant about this. He's talking so much about what Chelsea want to do and the game that we expect and and sometimes I want us to impose our game, and but that's a different conversation. He's so well prepared for what's going to happen, and he has seen Chelsea do certainly. Look at how I know we conceded from the front post, but look at our front post. You could see what we were trying. We were trying to stop that happening because we were seeing what Chelsea were doing. Yeah, I don't disagree in terms of the entertainment, but equally, if you go back to it, so on the same article, of the total goals scored in the league this season, 27.5% have been non-penalty set-piece goals, the second highest rate since 2009, 2010. Now, if you said to someone, okay, you hate the league, the way the league is now, when was it good? When was this peak? 2010. All right. So it goes in cycles. It goes in cycles, and I think I just think we're at one of those cycles. I think what will be interesting is, I think if we do win the league, we might get to set the tone a little bit more of the, maybe we will be given a bit more credit potentially for setting a tone. I don't know if we do or don't. I just think we're responding, but I think we might get to be more protagonist, if that makes sense, in the sort of the next phase of the Premier League, which will be different again and will change, and might be more counterattacks. I don't know. It could be something completely different. George, I would come to you, but I feel like you're going to have a well-informed opinion on this that might take some time, and I think we need to go to questions, so apologies. Let's go to your questions on Discord and X. Thank you so much for joining us on the squad. If you are enjoying this, make sure you subscribe or like or review wherever you are, or Rohan will shout at you. That does usually work.
What's it right now? I've not checked Spotify recently, so
I don't know, but do you want to tell people to review the show on Spotify?
Well, listen, if it's on 400, it needs to be on 500. If it's on 500, it needs to be on 600. If it's on 600, it needs to be on 700. That's how it goes. We want 100 plus on the rating, please. And thank you.
It's 408. Got a 4.9 star review. That's not too bad.
Get that to 5, and I want 500 before I go to work tomorrow morning. Before the podcast is out.
Before this even comes out. Say on Apple Podcasts as well, where you can. I think you might soon be able to watch us on video as well, but you can watch some video as well on Spotify if you want to see our beautiful faces. Right. If you want to get priority access to questions, you can do that on our Discord, where you can become a Discord person. You can do a Discord. Good. Right. The Gooner Sun says, "Hi guys, thank you for all that you do." Thank you, the Gooner Sun. My question is, which trophy do you believe would mean the most to the fan base, and then for the players and Mikel? Is the answer different? I'm going to take host privileges and ask you a question, then answer it. Definitely for Mikel, 100% the Premier League. I have no doubt in my mind that man wants to win the Premier League more than anything else. I think he obviously wants to win the Champions League, but more than anything else wants to win the Premier League. I will say, for certain players, and who do I mean? I think I mean players like Saliba, and maybe players like Gyökeres, maybe Jesus, people like that. There might be a couple dotted through the team who are more interested in winning the Champions League. Not to say that, so maybe not as in not more interested and don't care about the Premier League, but equally as interested. But I think for Mikel and the vast majority of the players, I think it is the Premier League.
I actually think the fans might want the Champions League, in a sense, because of the debates of it, right? Like, it's the only one. Like, as far as making Arsenal complete in those March international,
the most George
debates.
Take I've ever heard. The fans want to win it so they can win debates.
Essentially,
who are you talking about?
Because we're talking about a team that's basically winning a major trophy, right? Like, I think as far as like either the Champions or the Premier League, those are the only two that fans, players, and manager will care about. So I don't think it's about necessarily the Carabao or the FA Cup. It's those two, and depending on where you fall, like, I don't know about the difference in the player. I think players and manager both want the Premier League from a consistency standpoint. Like, they're obviously not going to be like, oh, I don't want to win X trophy. But I think when they look at it, like, you play more for this one thing, and I would just think that means more to you, just factually. And then once you've won it, you start saying, okay, well, I want to be the best in the world. So then you start going to, the Champions League, to World Cups, and to those things. And then that's, I think, though, the hierarchy for players and manager will always be, Premier League first, and then it goes into the major cup competitions with Champions League, World Cup, Euro Cup, etc. That's from a legacy standpoint. But I do think, like fans, like we look at it from a perspective of, okay, first one, like I'm really trying to do this. Like we've won the Premier League before. So I think, I don't know, I could be wrong. I just think from an Arsenal fan perspective, if I said you could win either or, you're going to win a major trophy.
Oh, it's easy for me. It's so easy.
And I want the Premier League.
Do you know where I think you might be right, George? I think older fans might say the Champions League.
Yes. Yeah, maybe. It could be
I think our generation
thing.
would say Premier League.
100%.
Yeah, I want the Premier League because I still believe that consistency across the season is what you work for. You have a bigger body of work, so I want it to be proven over that way. I've spent more time with it. But no, I really could see the argument for the Champions League being something like, especially with older fans, but just fans in general, because it's something that, Arsenal lack as far as European heritage, pedigree, the trophy that we don't have. And, to really break that duck, it'll be remembered. It factually will make Mikel in Arsenal history. Winning a major trophy does, but also being the first Arsenal manager to do it is something that he would love. So
I also
think
it's
he will. There, but
I think he'll win the Champions League. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, me too.
I'm
the double, mate. Hot take from Jan.
I genuinely think it is. If there are fans out there who want to win the Champions League, it's going to be the older heads because they've seen it before. I want that Premier League. Premier League is consistency over 38 games. Do you know what I mean? So,
do you know what I realised we didn't speak about the draw?
Oh,
we haven't actually spoken on the podcast about the draw yet, and I haven't actually had a question about it. So let's talk about it. Where were you? What did you say?
I was listening to it. I was listening to it at work, and because I didn't actually process it before the draw how hard the run could have been. I thought I don't want to get myself stressed about it. I'm just going to listen to it. I do not care about how it all works. Just tell me the draw, and then after oh my god, the endorphins. Oh my god, I was like, geez, we've been done so nicely. Flipping Port Vale, Portsmouth, Wigan, Mansfield. Now we've got that Champions League draw.
I will go so far as to say, unless we get Barca in the semi-final, in which case I think it's more on a knife edge, we've got to be in the final.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like Newcastle over 2 legs, got to beat them. Atleti over 2 legs, we beat them 4-0 earlier on. Spurs, don't even get me started. Bodo Glimt, Sporting CP, Leverkusen. So unless we get Barca in the semi-finals...
We're walking to the semi-final, which is ridiculous to say. We're walking to the semi-final.
What you're going to get, though, you're going to get comments saying, oh, respect the opposition. We are... and whatnot. Respect. But
respect yourself.
Come on. Look at that draw. It's never going to be nicer than that.
It's a major failure if we don't. I'm sorry. I'll just go that hard. It is the nicest draw that we've had in years, and from an Arsenal Football Club who has had ridiculous draws, not just in Europe, but I think in cup competitions, I'd argue the last couple of years we have had stupid draws. We are due some bloody luck. And look, placing first in the seed, it helps. I mean, had we thrown the Inter game, by the way, which was a debate for a lot of people as far as rest, you're looking at being on the other side of the draw. And, look, I was ecstatic. I'm sitting there yelling in my head, the double, it's on. And it's one of those where, guys, I think it's worth saying what City's fixtures are, genuinely. I actually don't think that people have realized that.
I'll get the spreadsheet, George.
For as much as the draw was like, oh my God, Arsenal, you know what I did? I went to Manchester City's fixtures, and people aren't talking about this. Look at their next 6. It's 7. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is...
City have Forest at home, Newcastle away, Madrid away, West Ham away, Real Madrid at home, us in the Carabao Cup before the end of March.
Ridiculous.
That is... just also, in terms of... they won't play that Palace game until after the international break, but Forest is on the 4th. They have 3 days, then they play Newcastle. I don't know. I think I should have the dates for this, but they're basically 2 days before the Real Madrid game. Then they play that West Ham game at that weekend. Then they play Real Madrid, and then they play us. Not much rest time at all.
That's physical teams, guys. Those are running, hard, physical teams, and
Newcastle just beat them up. If you can't win, just beat them up.
Just hit them. Just hit them.
Just Joe Linton. Just whack them.
But in a nice way, obviously, in a nice way.
No, I'm advocating violence. That's what I'm doing.
And they are the team that have they have run so much in this. Guys, it has been something where I think that the addition of that Real Madrid tie is a factor for the Carabao Cup final. Genuinely, off the back of that schedule, you have a look between our fixtures and that. As far as what's in their legs right before the Carabao Cup final, it's a factor. If that was us, we'd all be shitting our pants. I'm telling you, people would be sharing these next 6 fixtures and shitting themselves.
Oh, I would be. I'll tell you that for free. I mean,
yeah.
What I will say though, with all of this joy and whatnot, I would still take us losing to Leverkusen if it meant we won the league. I'm sorry, I just want the league.
Rohan, by the way, George, just to let you know, in case you didn't catch TDK live, Rohan thinks we're losing the Carabao Cup final.
Well, I think I'm going to change
now.
He's
changing his mind. Oh, here we go. He read the comments and went,
Sorry, guys.
To be fair, I've said it from before, like, I'm not as confident as that as the Champions
I don't
League.
know about it. It's a one-off game, isn't it?
But look, I think that fixture really changes. It does for me. It does. I really think that that fixture list and having Madrid 2-3 days before the final, after having all of those physical games, is insane. And I think if I'm right in saying, I believe that there's rumors that Kylian Mbappe might be having a need for surgery or something along those lines.
He's out for
with
3
Madrid.
weeks. Yeah.
So yeah, it's that's a factor. But still, this is Madrid. And you have to show up in the Champions League. Like these are the heritage team. You don't want this team, and then afterwards it's Bayern, isn't it? Like if they get through, it's Bayern that is likely winners in the next leg. Like this is, guys, these are serious Champions League ties to have back to back in very important months.
Also, I do think City. I think we could see them in the final. Because think about these players just from a psychological perspective. Like the only thing a lot of these guys haven't won consistently is the Champions League. I think Pep will want to win another Champions League. Like if he's going to prioritize anything, does he care about another Premier League?
This summer as well,
That's what I mean.
There's still that chance.
He wants another Champions League. He wants another Champions League, and I bet he looked at that draw and went, "I want the Champions League more now because of the draw."
Hard.
Because of the draw, yeah.
Because they will beat Real Madrid. I'm pretty confident they'll beat them. So then
Bayern's the question for me.
Bayern Munich's going to be man-to-man pressing on steroids. Jeez, they're going to be like
that. To me is the biggest competition I would say in the Champions League for me. Like I think Bayern, even though we ironically did well, Bayern's the team I fear the most.
100%. I don't think that win that we had means that we're just going to beat Bayern again. Do you know? Bayern are top. But all I want, boys, is these games to be physical. Just getting beat up, you know, on FIFA when the energy bar is on like red. That's what I want when they go into these Premier League games on red, and then they can't run after like 10 minutes. That's what I want.
Oh my god!
Let's go back to our questions on Discord, and we've got a banter question here from Bulashan. Weekly banter question. My hairlines are 541 because of this team. Who in the squad has the best hair or hairline?
Hairline.
Can't say Calafiori. Can't say Calafiori or Declan Rice.
You can't say. Okay. Tell you what, David Raya is just looking strong.
Mikel?
Mikel's up there, although he did have a strand of hair out of whack on Sky Sports the other day. That was disgraceful. David Raya's.
Yeah, David Raya's
is very nice at the minute. He's grown out since the beginning of the year.
Who else?
I saw a post earlier of someone saying, don't put David Raya in your FPL because he went on holiday 9 months ago and his wife's 8 months pregnant. And I was like, you guys are
that's
so weird.
Coming from us rewatching the game.
So weird. No. I'm sorry.
Weird.
Rewatching a game for a podcast that is your job is more normal than FPL. Like,
oh my god.
Yeah, I'm FPL now.
I think Declan. Not Declan. Sorry, I think David Raya.
Ben White's got
Ben White's a handsome man. Dinny on the Discord says, "Where on the spectrum do you lie in regards to how much our current system / play style is down to just get over the line versus this is Arteta's philosophy?"
I think sometimes, when we talk about philosophy, I don't think a manager will be able to. A manager like Mikel, I don't think his philosophy will change depending on what entails next in football. He's a pragmatic manager in that sense, but he'll still try and maintain the core principles of pressing high, of building out, of certain sequences to play out of a man-to-man press, of ways in which you can create an opportunity in the final third via a cutback or via cutting inside. I think these are things that are staples, but in terms of the ins and outs of other details, it constantly changes, and it depends on on where we are. I know he's you've spoken about it in terms of it's very opposition dependent, which I think for me is more of a strength than a con, even though there is a con there.
No, I want to be up. It's
100%,
absolutely a strength, but
Yeah.
every strength has a shadow.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So
that's just the shadow.
Yeah, and so I think philosophy and saying I don't see it that way. Personally, I don't know how you guys feel, but
I think he wants to be king. He would say, if you could sum up his philosophy, it's dominate everything, kings of everything, it's all that stuff. But yeah, I think he goes. I remember reading something. I can't remember exactly where it was, but I remember reading something about how he's very, very aware and is fed back information about what the trends are in Europe. Like he's like very clear on like where the game is. He wants to be very clear on where the game is going, not just where the game is.
He led it.
Oh yeah, okay, maybe yeah, but yeah. So I think he's just very, very aware of the situation that he's in. Basically,
he's not an ultra-crepidarian, because I can tell you for free, right? When we're talking about like how certain ways we play out from the back and against man-to-man press, it's De Zerbi. it's De Zerbi's way of playing through. It's not Mikel's way of playing through. If you have a look at his teams and how they play and work situations, it's very much what Big Roberto does. So he's always learning. Mikel.
Look, I do think he's the type of person that just naturally, again, like you said, Alex, everybody has, a shadow, or, there's a pro and a con to every perspective. But let's, what we've talked about on the pod, he views it as a massive strength, the ability. And, he would argue that I'm going to take your best strength and work it against you. But Mikel has always been like that. Like when you look at, even the clips that he talks about as far as the wingers and some of the work he's done with specific wingers in terms of body position and whatnot, it is how the opposition is going to deal with your duel. It hasn't been focused on, okay, when you receive, this is how you can get out of it. It's about, okay, if you put yourself in this position, you can roll against your opposition. Yeah. It's just how he views it. And I don't know, that only turned into a negative when people are feeling as though that the product that they saw wasn't what they wanted, I think. And that's the only thing.
I think he just has a lot of respect for the game. And
he does. He's a student of the game.
He's a student of the game, and like that's great. Yeah. But sometimes you just need to put two fingers up at the game occasionally. Do you know what I mean?
He's signing Coyote this summer, mate. That's what he's doing.
I don't want him.
Just one of those.
Don't want him. It is going to be fascinating. Like, actually, there's a question now. So from the dreaded website, this is from Ghost Hunter 87, who says, "Is it time to part ways with Martin Odegaard this summer with the state of the Premier League?" It is
that at the end of the pod.
It is a really interesting, bro. I haven't got the particularly controversial opinion on it, so I'm asking you. It's ultimately about, I think, where the clubs see the game going, and I can't. I'm going to shock everyone here. I'm not working at an elite football club, so I don't know. I don't know what the trend's going to be. I currently look at the strength of teams like the Brentfords, even Fulham the other day. Fulham are great, man. They're so good. Everton, Bournemouth, Brighton, Sunderland. These are the teams that are making up this league that you've got to go and beat every week. And I can't see us shifting away from it massively. But how do they must be looking at it and going, right, okay, we've got this kind of mid-block run ball thing going. How do we create some advantages? I do wonder. Fulham actually might be an interesting one to go on. I watched them against Spurs. They just have a load of like techie ballers, just like knocking it about. So maybe we're going back there. I don't know. Maybe that's the way to break through mid-blocks. Could be.
I mean, I don't know. I've said this a little bit before, so I don't want to elongate it. I do think his role is potentially the most redundant, and there was going to be issues in terms of how we would see that, especially with Martin Zubimendi, where the league's going when we talk about it being more vertical, greater sprints. that profile is something that I do think is going to be an issue. Now, I've always felt that the league's response to this almost twin strikery type of system is going to be the return of a more wing-back based system to fight against it. And the reason I've said that is because when you have a league that wants to go more 4-4-2, not to get super nerdy, but it is the system that allows you to have the quickest transitions, but also both in an attacking and defensive sense. By having twin strikers, it's really easy in order to commit more men forward quickly, but also in a 4-4-2, it's very easy to snap back into defensive shape and have very consistent lines. So it's a very easy system to do that. So you do that typically when you've got a team maybe that you don't trust their ability to understand defensive 1v1 assignments. You as a coach go, okay, I'll go 4-4-2, makes the defensive roles nice and easy and very clear. Now, when the league is more doing that, by the way, we've seen more second strikers come into the fold just in Europe and everything in general, in order to combat a 4-4-2 system that has these twin strikers that focus on central output. You got to stretch a team more. So get those twin strikers out. Don't get them central. How do you do that? Add an overload on the wings, because it's the only line in the 4-4-2 that's a little bit underloaded. If you look at it centrally, everybody's got 2-2-2 in the 4-4-2. So what coaches will say, just tactically, is let me spread it. And that's what happened, by the way, in 2003, 2004, 2005. What happened after that with Jose and whatnot, the introduction of wingbacks became a lot more prevalent in those next 5 years. And that was just to create more width. And that will build, because a lot of teams are doing this back three buildup type of thing. So it's a very easy transition. I think United are almost the prototype of that, ironically, in terms of what they want to do. So I anticipate that being where the league will go, personally, with it. But look, it's all theory and debate. I just think we go in a cycle tactically. Like, if you look at history, we went through 4-4-2. What killed it? The back three. What killed the back three? We started adding a little bit more inside into 4-5-1. We started overloading the midfield. And then what killed it? We went back to 4-4-2 to kind of introduce transitions. And we just keep doing this cycle. And in my opinion, we're in a 4-4-2 cycle.
Yeah, and I think the two signings that stand out to me on the back of that last summer were Frimpong and Aït-Nouri. Those were the two that I went, okay. And it hasn't quite paid off yet, but maybe it will. Yeah, maybe the KOD thing's back in, Rohan.
Maybe we also need to...
Diouf from West Ham.
Yeah.
Somebody we should look at. They're going to get relegated.
Score predictions, Brighton.
I'm
3-1.
I'm worried. Oh, God's sake. I'm worried about this, George. This guy's never, ever predicted anything other than win. I'm worried.
Hertz is a little... he's a bit of a final boss against the big teams, you know, Hertzler. He likes a little big game. I think we'll be all right there.
I think Chelsea will be a tougher game than Brighton. I think Brighton for me is a more favorable matchup. I was more worried about Chelsea than I was Brighton.
Brighton won't be loose ball. They're going to try and play for us. So I think,
and they'll meet us though.
Yeah,
they'll come and they'll play.
So theoretically, I reckon we'll be all right. But we know it doesn't always work like that. But
I just don't think their midfield's as physical as what some of their teams were in the past.
James Milner at the weekend. I mean, he's like 60 now, surely we can.
Yeah, and I just don't. I think that's the biggest difference. They don't have really, and Baleba hasn't had the best of seasons. Yeah. So if Baleba was in form, that's a little bit of a different story. But beyond that, their midfield isn't incredibly physical. And that was the thing that used to worry me with Brighton before. Like, they had this man-to-man, they had a lot of build-up ideas, but really they had a midfield that was very easy to transition with. And so they hurt you in that aspect quite a bit. They were able to really go through the thirds quickly. It's a slightly different version of Brighton. It is a much techier version, and they do rely on it. So I think we fare up better with those. Teams that want to face us but lean more technical, we fare better. If you are somebody that's more physical, that you want to play up against us, we tend as a team to suffer more from those type of games.
You know, it's Danny Welbeck.
I mean, the narratives are
aging
just...
like fine wine. You know, he's just getting better and better.
His finish against Nottingham Forest.
My God, Welbs, that guy Welbs. I think he'll be all right. He'll be all right though.
I think, I mean, Gomez, Hinshelwood, Matoma, Welbeck it's more It's more
Minter's
techie
back
baller.
as well, you know.
It's more techie baller. Yeah, he was on the bench. Yeah, I just have a bad. It's a midweek
Omen.
away game.
Because we
You know,
dropped
when you're
points
just-
in our last two
Yeah.
midweek away games in the Prem.
Have we?
Yeah, it was Brentford and midweek. Brentford and Wolves.
Yeah,
One
they
was
were both-
Thursday and one was Wednesday.
They were
So
both midweek. I've got that feeling. Sorry to say, but I want to be proved wrong.
go on, you going for a draw then?
No, I will go for a 2-1 win to Arsenal.
Oh god, it's
Squeaky
going to be
bums.
I'm sick of these. I'm sick of them. They actually kill me. I don't even think they actually like. Just...
I think we concede first. I think we go with the classic concede first, and then I don't even think I think we concede, and then it's like we go on a little bit of a run for about 5-10 minutes, and we get like a quick 2-1. Brighton come onto us, and we'll get like a very weak transition goal. But I think that's kind of the flow of the game. I think we concede first, though. I do.
Give me any goal, mate. Get me Mansfield. Get me Mansfield after a 1-0 horrible win.
Get me to
Anything.
Mansfield.
Get me to Mansfield. And on that note, we're on the show.
Get me to
Get-
Mansfield.
where even
you know.
is Mansfield?
It's near my end. It's like above. I think it's above Nottingham. So
Oh, Mansfield. One day I'm just going to read out place names from the UK to George. And just actually, we should do like is this a place name or have I made this up thing?
should do that actually.
'Cause
I'll
there
do
are
the
some-
same in Canada too.
We should do it, like a little quiz.
Oh,
There was a
God.
place where I'm from in Dorset called Puddletown, which I remember as a 7-year-old. I mean, that's the funniest thing in the world, isn't it? Do you know what I
There's a
mean?
lot of
So you know what I feel like? We've got a place like East Willambury, which to everybody else would be weird, but I feel like you'd be like, that's
Yeah.
possibly something that I could see in like
Sounds fine.
in like
Does
That's-
Puddletown have a lot of puddles?
I'm so sorry you had to hear that, everyone. I'm so sorry. He thought that was acceptable to say on a podcast.
I was laughing in my head about that.
Listen, thank you for joining us on The Squad. As always, we had a rewatch out, as we said, with James for the Chelsea. That's Puddletown. With James for the Chelsea game. We might have a rewatch for the Brighton game. I haven't quite decided what that second poll might be. Might be a little rip my take. Who knows? Got an instant reaction coming out for that. Instant reaction to the Mansfield game as well. No knockabout this week. James is away in Italy? ? No, South Africa. No one needs to know. That's fine. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Georgiano Ronaldo.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you so much. You need a little thank you, good sir. You need like a...
Yeah, I said a thank you.
Me? Like
No.
more personality?
You've got a... No. Hang on. No. You've got a thank you, good sir. That's fine. Rohan's is just thank you.
Yeah.
We need a little
Puddletown.
sign off. Just say Puddletown.
Thank you, Puddletown.
Great. Thank you, George.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you, Puddletown.
And thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Inspiration.